Just a pilot in his cockpit seated. Black leather on his ass, keep a hustler heated. Weed is engaged.
Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think is a big threat to, not a threat, but it's a competitor to the STI, and it's just basically a new interesting car in the segment, and that's the Type R. So I know the Type R has been available in Europe for some time, but it's just now being debuted in the United States. And this Type R is actually pretty good. It's got forced induction, 306 horsepower. The stats are all good, and the performance data is all good too, honestly. It's in many ways better than the STI, which I would say is its direct competitor. It does only have a 2-liter engine versus the STI's 2.5 liter. But still, I think it still ends up being a more well-rounded sports car, or not a more well-rounded, but a well-rounded sports car, sporty sedan, put it that way, or hot hatch, whatever you want to call it, even though the WRXs aren't hatches anymore, which is kind of lame. But I just wanted to share some of the stats and then just kind of get some people's opinion. I think from the sounds of it, it sounds a lot, you know, in a way, a lot better than the STI. The price is very similar. The STI actually can go up a little bit more expensive, but they're both right around the $35,000 range. Horsepower, very similar again. Type R has 306, STI 305. Really similar. Of course, the Type R uses a newer type, twin scroll turbo, which makes boost really low, just like the WRX does now. So it actually makes 295 foot-pounds at 2,500 versus the STI's 4,000. So I know the STI is all-wheel drive, but a lot of that isn't really able to be fully realized due to the the archaic drivetrain that it has in it. Meaning that EJ 2.5 is just old. I mean, I remember wanting an STI when they first came out in mid 2000s, early 2000s, with the same 300 horsepower engine, and it's like, wow, we've gone so long and we still have that same damn engine. It's quite ridiculous, and that's the number one reason I would say that I didn't get an STI and I got a WRX instead, because with that older engine comes really poor fuel economy. It doesn't have any of the newer features that newer cars do, such as a direct injection. And so the WRX just ended up being a more modern car, whereas the STI, although it does have, superior handling, its engine is just ancient. Just can't stand that. It feels like I'm wasting money. So let's go look over some of the performance data. So 0 to 60, actually a hell of a lot closer than you would think. So I'm looking at car and driver's numbers. The Type R, 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. The STI, 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. So both cars, should have a big asterisk on them. Whereas the STI, I'm sure, gets that 4.8 seconds by giving it like dumping it really high and slipping the clutch, like a magazine would, with very little regard to, the drivetrain's longevity, like basically something that your average driver wouldn't be doing with the car. But the same could be said for the Civic Type R. I'm sure that 4.9 0 to 60 was after many runs, and it probably either hooks or it doesn't, and it's going to be far more dependent on the surface. How good the tarmac you're running on is, being front wheel drive. So I would give the acceleration probably, I would call them probably fairly evenly matched. I mean, you got 13 13.5 at 108 for the Type R, and 13.3 at 105 for the STI. So that's pretty close. I mean, they're within a couple tenths of a second. The Type R, of course, traps higher, so if they both get a bad launch for some reason, the Type R is going to win because it's gonna make up more time in the big end than the STI would be able to. That brings us to the 0 to 130, which for the Type R is 21.7 seconds, and the STI is 23.1. So the Type R is just a beast on top end. It would have no problem handling a Camry, even the new V6 Camry, which has 300 horsepower. So STI wouldn't either. So actually, on a roll, I would STI versus Camry. It would be close. I'd be a little bit concerned. The STI has a manual, which is going to shift slower. The new Camry has like an 8-speed automatic, so that would be close. But I think the Type R, putting down more power to the wheels, and it clearly has a better trap, and I think it has a little bit better power band. I think the Type R is going to be the quicker top end car and would be able to beat a Camry. STI probably could too, but it would be a little bit closer. Wow. Anyway, the big thing that everybody's going to say when comparing these cars is, well, the STI can handle significantly better because it's all-wheel drive, which I think is mostly true, depending on the conditions, the track, if it's how tight it is, how open it is it really going to exploit the front-wheel drive's issues, which is the inability to put down power, corner exit speeds, that sort of thing. That's where they're going to be closer than you would expect. So it's going to come down to the track. And since the Type R is so capable, it has this crazy front suspension and differential. I've seen many videos where it has 0 torque steer, which is quite amazing. I mean, I'd have to drive that because every front wheel drive car I've ever driven has tremendous torque steer. This ELR that I'm in, my Cadillac, it's front wheel drive. It has a good amount of torque steer. So I don't know if it's no torque steer when you're just going in a straight line or what, but it looks pretty good. The big thing for the Type R is going to be that, I don't know if it's due to the aero, the tires, or what, but its skid pad was 1.02 G versus the STI's 0.93 G, which is a pretty big difference. So the grip on the Type R should be really good. I mean, that's why I said it's going to come down to some of the corner exit speeds and stuff like that, where the Type R might not be able to put down the power and the STI could. But as far as just grip through corners, I think the Type R would actually have the STI. And this is, of course, going to be on normal tires. And I think the Type R actually comes on a much stickier tire. So it's a little bit of an unfair comparison, but still it is what it is. The cars are both for 35 grand. So there we go. The grip is a little bit better on the Type R. Could be due to tires, probably mostly due to tires. Acceleration, that's a close one. I'd call them even because the Type R is going to have a little bit more on top end. Of course, the STI is going to be able to launch more consistently and harder, slightly harder, be it that. The other thing is braking. So the STI has excellent brakes, as everybody knows. It has big front Brembos, something that my WRX doesn't have. But the Type R's brakes are just phenomenal. It's 70 to 0 was 142 feet. Versus the STI is 153 feet. So that's a big difference. And when comparing the two cars, one of the things to keep in mind is the Type R was only 3111 curb weight. So it weighs 3,111 pounds, and the STI weighs 3,402 pounds. So that a lot of that comes from the fact that it's all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive means you have a whole rear drivetrain that the front-wheel drive cars don't have. So that's a little bit of an interesting one when comparing this stuff is the weight. So the Type R is 300 pounds lighter, which is fairly significant. You're talking about cars that are in this weight class. That's a good 5-6%, something like that. So all in all, I would have to say, in my opinion, the Type R is a better car. It gets better fuel economy. It's rated at 22 city, 22 city, 28 highway, whereas we know the STIs is absolutely garbage at 17 city, 23 highway. So much better fuel economy from the Type R, quicker acceleration on top end. So, let's not compare 0 to 30 or 0 to 10. Once the cars are moving, the Type R is going to get it. Better braking, better grip, which of course has an asterisk on it because it's front wheel drive. So there's a lot of things that's going to exploit its lower grip levels due to that. But all in all, I mean, the Type R is just is a really impressive vehicle. If I were looking at purchasing a vehicle today, it would be certainly something I would look at, and certainly something I might look at in the future. The big negative for it is it just looks weird, and I think anyone who's looked at it will just see that it's really busy. It's got flares, a dozen wings in the back, lip, like every little. It looks like a kid went to took his Civic, went to Pep Boys and just had a field day bolting little doodads and fins and stuff on it. It looks really busy. I mean, it looks good, but it looks busy, like way busier than a factory vehicle should be, especially being a Civic. Like, they overstyled the hell out of that car. So I think the styling is going to be not for everybody, and it's actually a little bit of a concern for me because it's just a lot. I mean, it is a lot. Like, they really want you to know that you're in a Type R. The Type R's from the past, like the Integra Type R, and I mean, the only ones that we've really had in the US, they've always just been a little bit different than the other one. Different seat colors, different badging, just slight differences. This one is just, they went all out. Like, the car looks like, it looks like someone's tuned the car, which, is not really a look that I think anyone likes to sport. From the factory, at least, it looks like someone put a lip on it, put side skirts, put a rear diffuser. It looks like all that stuff's been put on it, but it's from the factory. So I guess that could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. To me, it's a negative. I would rather have something that's a little bit more Civic-y looking, kind of like how the STI just has the big wing, the WRX doesn't, but they both have the wide body panels and all that. It's subtle, and compared to even an Impreza, it's better. And it definitely looks far more sporty, but it's still subtle. The Civic is not subtle whatsoever. It is boy racer 100%, and that, I have to say, is a big negative for it. I would say that the better car, depends on you. For me, I would get the Type R rather than the STI because I don't like the STI's old engine, and I don't feel like I'm getting good value for that $35,000. And with the Type R, I think you're definitely getting good value. You're getting better fuel economy, better acceleration. I think just a more drivable car daily. I mean, it makes power down low, and it looks cool. I mean, depending on how you define cool, it looks cool. So I'd have to say the Type R for me is the winner. Tell me what you guys think. The other cars I was thinking about comparing was the SI and the WRX, which the SI is right around the 25 grand range, and the WRX starts at 27-ish, 28. But I paid 25 for my WRX, so I would consider them to be in the same class, essentially. And that's a better comparison for the Subarus. Anyway, let me know what you think. Type R versus STI. I'm curious if anyone's gonna be trading their STIs for Type Rs, or then if they have to purchase another vehicle, if they're gonna cross shop a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of cars in the segment. There's the Focus RS, and what other cars? There's Focus RS and kind of the Focus ST, but the ST is more of a WRX fighter. So I think in that class, it's really and there's of course the CLA 45 AMG, but that's 50 grand. It's hard to compete, but it does compete in that segment. So you got the Focus RS, Type R, STI, I think are really direct competitors, as odd as that is, because they're all right around the ballpark price range. I think the Focus RS is a little bit more expensive, and the Type R and the STI, of course, are like the same price. So anyway, let me know what you think, and be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know if you want me to discuss the SI and the WRX a little bit and compare stats and numbers and see which one is a better vehicle. So yeah, let me know. Take care.
Just a pilot in his cockpit seated. Black leather on his ass, keep a hustler heated. Weed is engaged in the pavement. Brother escorts like I'm seeking arrangement. Push the gas, escalate the gauges, escalate hits on the cam girls' pages, blazes, and hit it with a script full of sexy phrases.